friend in need is a friend indeed, and we Jewish people are so grateful to the United States of America for standing up for the Jewish people, for our right for self-defense and self-preservation, whilst many other nations of the world don't have the courage to stand up for what's right, choosing, in fact, what's popular over what's right. Listen to these sensational words spoken yesterday between the leadership of Israel and America at the unveiling of the pilgrimage road in the city of David, dating back almost 3,000 years of unbroken Jewish history in the land of Israel. Watch this.
The United States was founded on a powerful idea, defined not by geography, ethnicity, or anything else. It was founded on the very powerful principle that the rights of mankind comes from their Creator. For it was here that God fulfilled His promise to His people. It was here that the lessons that form the base rock and the foundations of our laws, of the principles upon which we decide what is right and what is wrong, was built upon. If you think about the things that today we in civilized societies used as rules to govern us, these things did not come because good people wrote them. They came because they were rooted in ancient teachings. For deep inside of us, we all know that we were created for a purpose and for a reason, that our dignity comes from our Creator. We deeply believe in our country as a founding principle from the God of Abraham and Isaac. And to stand here today on the very road where not 2,000 years ago, so many from everywhere ventured to fulfill that desire to be closer to the Creator is a humbling and honoring experience. As you go through the layers of history, you realize that all the civilizations that conquered this city, all the ones who tore it down and built on top, are all gone. The Roman Empire is no more, nor any of the others that sought to conquer and rule this land. But one people remain. They have returned. For God's promise is eternal, and it is perfect, and His word is always true. And I'm honored to be a part of its fulfillment here with you tonight.
If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. The Jewish people never forgot that this was their land, their home, their undivided, indisputable, indigenous capital from eternity. Tonight, the stones are crying out. The crowds may say it, but the stones absolutely and 100% validate that the Jewish people not only belong here now, but they have belonged here for 4,000 years, since the time God said to Abraham, "This is yours." And it is shouting from the top of the mountain that this is indeed the eternal home of the Jewish people, the Jewish state, and the people who rightly belong here. Tonight, the rest of the world comes to say, welcome home, and may no one ever attempt to take your home from you. It is yours. And those of us who are not Jewish, we thank you for giving all of us a foundation of morality and decency and civilization upon which our own faith is built, for without yours, we don't have one.
The Jews fought bravely, but the Romans were absolutely merciless. 2,000 years of yearning, next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem. It didn't matter if you were in the ghetto in Toledo or the ghetto in Warsaw. That's what Jews prayed for. Next year in Jerusalem. Well, we're here. This is our city, Mr. Erdogan. It's not your city. It's our city. It will always be our city. It will not be divided again. And that's why I so much appreciate the leadership of President Trump in this area as well. When he declared Jerusalem our capital, something that should have been acknowledged by every leader in the world, but he did it. And then moved the American embassy here. He called me up before he did it. He asked, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, you know, would there be riots? Would there be bloodshed? And I said, I don't think so. But if there will be, it'll be primarily directed at us. And we are definitely ready. So he just did it. And I welcome today the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who understands that this is the foundation of our common Judeo-Christian heritage. It is being challenged today. This is our city. It is forever our city. It will never be divided again. Am Yisrael Chai, and Jerusalem lives in our hearts. Thank you.
Awesome words spoken in an awe-inspiring place. This road, the pilgrimage road from the city of David, which is just outside the ancient walls of Jerusalem, dates back to King David 2,800 years ago. That's a mere 500 years after Moses brought the Jewish people out of Egypt, Egyptian slavery, and into the promised land. This is the road upon which Jewish pilgrims would rise up to the mountain of Jerusalem 3 times a year on the 3 major Jewish festivals of Passover, Sukkot, as well as Shavuos. These 3 festivals we still observe today in Jewish communities all over the world. They're called the 3 pilgrimage festivals because of this road, because of the biblical commandment, because we Jewish people have been observing the commandment of going up to Jerusalem in an unbroken tradition of 3,000 years. That is 1,500 years before the birth of Islam. That's 1,500 years before the mosque was ever placed upon the dome. The Golden Dome was placed on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, because this is our land, our eternal homeland, the land that was promised by God Almighty to the children of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, to the Jewish people. That's why we're called the chosen people, and that's why the land is called the promised land. Those who reject the Jewish people's rights to the land of Israel are rejecting not only the Jews, they're rejecting the Bible, they are rejecting God, and anyone who ever fought against God never, ever prevailed. How amazing it was to hear these words of Secretary of State Marco Rubio talk about how we are in fact one nation under God. The Americans are not embarrassed to speak like that. The Americans speak openly about how they were endowed by their Creator. And he references the God of Abraham and of Isaac. It's time for the Jewish people to do the same. When you look back at Jewish history, there is only one single consistent factor that has carried the Jewish people throughout all the times of their survival. It's not that we've always had an army, and it's not that we've always had a country, and it's not that we've always had the same food or the same customs or the same clothing or the same rituals. The only thing that the Jewish people have always had consistent, whether they were living in Eastern Europe or in America, whether they were living in the Far East or in Australia, the one thing the Jewish communities have always had when they prevailed was faith, was an unapologetic relationship with God, not being embarrassed of their culture, of their heritage, of their traditions and their faith, but carrying their faith on their sleeve, speaking proudly and openly about God Almighty. How refreshing it is to hear Ambassador Mike Huckabee and Secretary of State Marco Rubio invoke God in all of their words, carrying their faith with such pride and honor. It's up to us Jews to do the same, to embrace our faith, to embrace our God. When we turn our backs on God, God turns his back on us. But when we turn back to God, then God turns back to us. It's time. Let's end this war. Let's embrace our faith. Let's invite God to the battlefield, because in fact, like Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu said, this is our eternal homeland. God is not abandoning us. Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel, lives. That's not just a prophecy. That's not just a command. It's a prophecy.